Game 48, Aston Villa vs Burnley on the 30th of December 2023, titled Lift Anyone? Today would have been my mum's birthday. She would have been 88 today, and still possibly alive. There are still plenty of people still around at that age and older nowadays. Sadly, she passed away some 18 plus years ago. She was still a young lady then. I sit and reflect on the train journey in and can still hear her words. I can actually imagine her talking to me, as well as see her plainly in my mind, and still remember her saying she was born in the year that followed 2 days later to make herself younger. She was a marvellous mum who worked her way up from a pretty poor start in life. I spend time on the journey to Marylebone recalling her and my dad and things that were great and things that were not so great. One day I will tell you about my middle brother and the time he blackmailed my dad. It's true and it is a brilliant anecdote. Anyway, they are together again and that thought is a comfort, even though I have no proof it is real. I have the Claret and Blue Derby today when I get to TalkSport. It looks one-sided from the pre-match perspective, so angles have been difficult to find other than the obvious. London is around 60% up to speed as it's still the merry Neum period between Christmas and New Year. Viz and Roger Melly, thank you for that word. If you buy Roger Melly's Profanosaurus, you will find the meaning of that word. Rude, I know, but funny to me. I'm still getting the Viz annuals for Christmas. I'm a schoolboy at heart. Poo, piss, fart and bogies still make me chuckle. I like to keep the innocence alive in me, although in today's world sometimes a laugh can upset people. So not just comic timing is required, but knowing your audience is a massive advantage as well. In fact, it is frightening getting caught in two minds in knowing when to say something that is instantaneous in your mind. My mind, I've been told, is quite quick-witted, and I've made a bit of a smile ad-lib into people's comments. Often lewd, but quite funny. You know, sometimes when I order drinks at the bar and the bar person will say, and a gin and tonic for the wife, and I'll say, that's a fair swap, I think. Childish, but those quips pop out so quickly, it's a worry in today's day and age that I won't sometimes have done my risk assessment of the comment before publication. I wander along the road to Baker Street and look down into the big gaping hole that has been excavated along the pavement. A myriad of different sized cables and pipes wending their way down a Baker Street. Diddly 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 did. Cue the saxophone solo. I board the Jubilee line to London Bridge. I get a seat easily enough, but I am at one end of the tube, meaning on alighting I could use the lift as it's nearer. So today I decide the knee's a little whingy, so I will. Off round the corner and down a little alcove to the lift, press the button and wait for it to descend to me. But then people who really need the lift start to appear in quite a considerable number. Parents with buggies, people in wheelchairs, more than enough for one lift. But I'm stood at the front with no outward sign of saying I need to use the lift. I look physically capable of using the escalators, and they're right, but it's a bit of a trek from this point and there's no sign saying you have to be a certain type of person to use the lift. My mind then offers me an escape route. Bend your knee and wince a bit. That will confirm your need. So I do. I look at the two persons in their respective wheelchairs who look back at me with blank, non-emotional faces. I try that again as the lift arrives. The doors open, I step aside and the lift fills and I wave everyone goodbye with a smile. The doors shut and as a mark of anger I push the button again, meaning the doors open, but I've already made my escape. Their mini delay is the best outcome for this vindictive old sod who now has to walk in pain the long way round. You're right, I am a wanker, but I was there first and my knees are fucked. Not all pain is visible. I sit on the concourse of London Bridge Station with the obligatory latte and people watch. I deduce there'll be a few parties going on tonight. Young ladies dressed to impress, one side, and the guys all smart and cool on the other side of the concourse. It's almost school disco-esque as they clock each other with approving glances. It's quite a large concourse, and it has the feel that it might break out into the Sharks and the Jets dance from West Side Story. No dance occurs and the revellers actually go in different directions. I too go to the studio in another direction. Through the revolving doors, into the impressive foyer, through the security gates, and up the upward moving escalator that goes slow until you stand on it. Now I am in the lift lobby stroke foyer. 8 lifts, A to D one side, E to H the other side. These are positioned centrally within the building. Now you would think after at least 5 years of coming into the building I would know which way to turn to get to the studio on my arrival at the 10th floor, but I don't. Not going up and not when coming down. Because you touch the lift screen, it tells you what lift to take, meaning you could get the ones on your left or the ones on your right. Therefore, on arrival on the 10th floor, things can be reversed to what you were thinking. So on exiting the lifts, it's become one of two bodily movements. It could be one step to my left or right, followed by a pivot back to the other way, or a straightforward smile as I've guessed correctly for once. On the way up isn't so damning getting it wrong, but on the way down, it's a little pisser turning the wrong way to a dead end. So now I tend to peek out like a mouse to check which way is right. I may not have described that very well, but the lifts can be a little nightmarish for a man who is governed by his mind and actions. I want life to be perfectly straightforward, right down to the minutiae of lift guessing. In Blighty we have a quiz show called the 1% Club, which consists of questions which are designed for different parts of the brain to work on, i.e. some people will think differently and get the question right and some won't. The lifts in the building obviously don't correlate with any part of my brain. Into the studio, and Jamie is there, our producer for the afternoon, and I ask him if he has troubles with the lifts. He says, "What do you mean?" I say, "Knowing which way to turn on exiting the lifts." He says, "No." Then says, "If you're in the lift on the left, turn right, and in the lifts on the right, turn left." And I say, "But what about on the way down? How do I know if I'm on the left or the right? Because it depends on which way you're facing." He goes, "You're in booth 3 today, so my overthinking is right, in a way, or left." The game itself was a cracker, 3-2 home win, a sending off, and a penalty winner late on in the game. Bailey smacked the first in for Villa for Amdouni equalised minutes later. Diaby gave Villa the lead before Burnley were reduced to 10 men when Berg got his second yellow. Villa then missed a host of chances before somehow Foster got an equaliser for Burnley, although VAR had a check on things. But the winner from Louise from the spot, which smacked the crossbar and came down and went in, was for me completely in the dubious awarding of penalty bracket. John Duran, the Villa substitute, got the tiniest of touches on his ankle bone. Now, I'm not saying it didn't hurt, as I know it isn't the fleshiest part of the body, but his reaction was pretty theatrical. Even on replay, there is no denying a flick of the front two studs, but it looked a soft one. I make my way home across London in the darkness. I get on the train, which, by the way, was on the furthest platform away from me, and relax. It feels as though it's been a long day, but it's been the same as all the others. I check the local scores and read the reports on my match, as well as contemplate the fact that after tomorrow we will be writing 2024 at the top of our school books and not 2023 anymore. I remember back to my primary school days when I first wrote 1970 at the top of the page and thinking, wow, no longer in the 60s. The Beatles hadn't even broke up, and now another year has passed and I'd have achieved absolutely nothing. I'm still scratching around for a living and the body feels old. Well, my knees do anyway. 2023 has been a slog in more ways than one, and it's been a year where my mind has had the upper hand for the majority of it. Time equals thinking, and train journeys can be sombre moments, and luckily they have a happy ending usually when Rocco and my wife are there to pick me up in both ways from the station. Happy New Year, everyone. Game 49, Sheffield United versus West Ham United on the 21st of January 2024. Titled, Best Laid Plans. Ping! I open my eyes. It's dark and the time is illuminated on the ceiling of the bedroom as I cannot see past my wife in the night to check the time. So we bought one that projects the time on any surface for me. It's 5:18. My wife rolls over to her bedside table and picks up her phone and whispers, "It's my phone." "Who is it?" "It's one of our best friends who works in the police force," she says. "There's been an accident which is going to block the motorway to London for a while," says the message. I go back to sleep as I reassure myself it will be sorted before I drive to London for my match this afternoon. 3 hours later I stir from my slumbers. My logistics manager is on the case. "The motorway is still closed," she says, "and there are tailbacks everywhere." Now awake I ask, "Where is the actual accident?" "It doesn't show on Google Maps other than black lines of traffic not moving," she replies. I decide to go on Route Planner on the phone to see what is the best route. "Oh, it says M40 still." "No," says my wife, "it says A40. Now you are possibly wondering why this is relevant. It's a Sunday and I'm off to London Bridge Studios to do a commentary. My eldest lives nearby and we've sorted out parking, congestion charge, and I'll be laden up driving to London to return his things stored at our house after decanting him from his pantomime run pre and post Christmas. Now you understand why the chat over the closing of a main arterial route from Oxford to London is causing a little late planning. After an early call to my son, who generally, well, let's say breakfast TV from his loose women, is still in the land of Nod, I decide to go to London on the train, armed with a small rucksack with an essential item in. A pair of black Doc Martin boots. Not pants, socks or a food parcel, but Doc Martens. I arrive in time and sit and wait on London Bridge Concourse for him to arrive. Now, if you're familiar with the station, it is large with several entrances and exits, and sort of shopping malls as well. I sit outside Cafe Nero and text him where I am. He's a little longer than I thought, and it was getting near to the time which I needed to be in the studio. So I text him again saying I've popped into Mark's for a sandwich. I come out and sit down, and again, no sun. Finally, he appears. There are two Marks on London Bridge Station. He was outside the wrong one and I was outside the right one. Well, the right one for him and the wrong one for me, say. Anyway, the covert mission of passing the said Dr. Martins occurred. We chatted, he headed off to the gym and I walked into work. Oh, the drama and excitement of the Journeyman Commentator. Today's match is Sheffield United versus West Ham, and it is a double-hander today. I have an ex-Premier League footballer alongside me as a pundit, and I'm pleased to say it's Hogan Ephraim, someone who I've worked with and chatted to before, and someone who underneath his professional exterior has a childlike mind, just like me. We have a little pre-chat going on air, and then we're off and into it. For me, having a pundit is great because my inquisitive mind can throw questions at a player who has been there, and I can find out if those basic Sunday morning type of thoughts still creep into the professional heads. You know what I mean? He's just left a little bit on me, now I will leave a little on him, because that often goes through your bonds when the red mist descends. Hogue is good at describing the passing of the thought before using a Shakespearean length quote to say, yes you do. The game itself is a classic in terms of being not brilliant but exciting, intriguing without being boring and full of incident. 4 goals, 2 penalties, 2 different red cards and a draw in the 103rd minute. I rib Hogan at the break about his ability to open up defences when he played football back in the day, as during the break he couldn't open the cupcake box he brought in. It was one bit of tape, but he demolished it like a beagle finding food. We got good feedback on social media, enjoying our commentary and our harmonious oohing as Brewster floored Emerson for his sending off. So as I reflect on game 49 on the train home, my son didn't get his stuff, but he did get his Doc Martens, and my plans didn't work out. But I had a great time in the commentary box, and now I feel sad, as I think but honestly don't know. Some families may well have had their world turned upside down. Pings in the dark are not nice. Game 50, Mozambique versus Ghana on the 21st of January 2024, titled Paying the Penalty. It has been a perforated January due to a staggered winter break and FA Cup football, which has been good for me too. But it is back to the small studio for a website commentary on the African Cup of Nations Group B game between Mozambique and Ghana. I've been a little wrapped up in other things to have really studied the African Cup of Nations, but it doesn't take me too long to get up to speed. The studio is small and compact, neat and tidy and warm. I check levels and do some pre-check work. There seems a little issue and the remote IT people sort it out. I look at the team news and discover quite a few household names to get me through the opening forays, which also will allow me for any positional changes to my team sheet. Sometimes, as I said before, left and right centre-half positions can be wrong, as well as in the heart of the midfield. I hadn't covered many of these games for this company since the end of November due to, in my part, needing a break. My time is being eaten up by my own creative mind and wanderlust. I'm back in the saddle and they appear to be happy to have me back. Back at Italia 90, Roger Miller and the Cameroon side burst onto the football scene, only for many professionals to comment that one day an African side will win the World Cup. Today I still think of that statement, but I think it's lost all its opportunity. Lack of talent? No, they've got it in abundance. Lack of skill? No, they've got it in abundance. Lack of passion? No, they've got it in abundance. Lack of desire? No, they've got it in abundance. Lack of tactical nous or management? No, they have it in abundance. Then why do I say not then? Well, this is how I've got to my opinion. It's not brilliant, but it's my own thoughts. Back in the 60s and the 70s, the dominant side in international football was Brazil. They played with flair, freedom and passion. Those 3 items made them difficult to contain or beat. But to me, the Brazil of today isn't the same as the Brazil of yesteryear. France 1998, the World Cup final, and the team sheets arrive for the final against France, and there is no Ronaldo on the team sheet. Their world-class, talismanic, thunder-footed centre-forward's name is missing, and it is world-breaking news. Pandemonium erupts in all media circles. He is ill is the corporate line. There has been an incident in the lead-up to the final. Pundits and commentators discuss what the loss is going to do on the world's biggest stage of the world's best player to Brazil. When lo and behold, a new team sheet arrives with his name in the lineup. What is going on? The coverage is now in meltdown. Has he been ill or not? What was the incident? Anyway, the real story appears to have been a convulsion prior to the game for Ronaldo, but tests apparently had shown he was fit to play. He did play and was a shadow of the man he'd been for the rest of the tournament. One of the theories was that there had been interference from the kit sponsors Nike saying that he had to play. That has never been substantiated, but it leads me to an underlying financial theory on football. Money and the investment in teams, albeit international clubs, change the way football is played. It shackles freedom, it becomes a millstone around coaches and managers' necks, and the moneymen must have results in return for their investments. I don't think Brazil will ever play as they did through the 70s ever again, due to the financial restraints. Since Italia 90, the shores of Africa have been plundered by European football clubs scouting and finding brilliant talent. They all play for the top clubs in Europe, and they play for European sides who play in leagues full of investment where each point often has a monetary gain for the clubs, meaning the restraint is applied. And now those household names go back to their international lineups and the freedom is lost. Zaire in 74, Cameroon in 90 are totally different to the African Cup of Nations sides on show today. Sides in today's tournament are more frightened of losing than going to win games. You can understand the tournament pressures of football not wanting to lose as you're aiming to be the winners, but a certain mindset is in football now which for me kills the passion. It's like big pants, they do the job solidly, but they're not arousing the passion that some skimpy ones do. They might not do a solid job, but who cares? Ghana are a powerhouse name in the African Cup of Nations, a decent side who find themselves in a little bit of trouble here in Group B, but they can atone things with a victory over Mozambique, who are minnows in terms of cup history, but have done well in the group. But this is where their bubble bursts, doesn't it? I'd call this game paying the penalty, and in a 4-goal match, 3 are from the spot. Pansil gets caught by a clumsy coming together for penalty number 1 that falls into the what side of the bed the ref got out of today. One of those where if it's given yes I can understand, and if not I can understand that too. Crystal Palace's Jordan Ayew puts Ghana 1 up. The second half is fairly even until penalty number 2 is given. Ghana, the recipients, Ayew the scorer for 2-0. This one annoys me. A cross into the box hits the Mozambique defender under the arm, almost up by his armpit, and from a distance of maybe no more than a metre, if that. Ghana had not really created anything in the match in terms of goal scoring opportunities throughout the game, and now they had 2 indifferent penalties awarded to them. Not their fault, but 2 dodgy decisions in my mind. But hang on a minute. Late on in the game, an even worse penalty was given on Jordan Ayew this time, as a Mozambique player hooked the ball over his shoulder inside the Ghanaian penalty area, which hit a very surprised Ayew on the arm from close proximity. Penalty scored and Ghana's lead is now only 2-1. Only for the only goal of the game, with no doubt over it, being scored by Mozambique's Ronaldo when he headed in a corner for the equaliser. So, without the penalties, and there in my mind controversy, Mozambique would have won 1-0, but instead drew 2-2. Ghana though were now hanging on to other results to go their way, otherwise they'll be going home. A decent game and a decent performance. I pack up and I head home satisfied with my descriptive call. Home and a little jaded. Have I told you I'm good in bed? No? Well, I am. I go straight to sleep.